downer. But on this, let's move on to something a bit more jovial, and let's talk about our television picks or our film picks of the month. Now, I think I know what you're going to go for. I was speaking to you on Friday, and you were like, but there's been something over the weekend, hasn't there, that maybe you might want to talk about.
You talking about SSGB?
Maybe. No?
I liked it.
Yeah, you liked it. Oh wow! Oh
Yes.
goodness me! SS. Oh, I mean,
No,
what about? I mean, like our mutual friend Chris was complaining about the fact that they had a Mark One Spitfire or something. Um,
no, it was a Mark 9
there you
Spitfire.
go.
I think it was. It didn't see service until 1942, and the programme set in 1941, and after Britain's been conquered by the Germans. But for anybody that's watching this that doesn't know, it will be turning up on a TV service near you sometime soon.
Yeah.
It's the latest BBC Sunday night flagship serial production. It's an adaptation by two of the writers, actually, of the recent James Bond movies,
Oh, okay.
of a Len Deighton novel that came out, I think, in the late 1970s, called SSGB, which is a counterfactual thriller set a year after Germany won the Battle of Britain and invaded and took over Britain in 1940. So it's a World War II counterfactual. It debuted on BBC One on Sunday, and one of the problems with it is that the two problems. One is it's had a lot of criticism on social media for people not being able to hear the dialogue and accusing certain of the actors of mumbling. And other people have said actually it's just realistic, and if you've got the Gestapo spy in the pub, you're likely to lower your voice if you're discussing something. And that's actually just that, it's part of the atmospherics.
Yeah.
I think, and in fact, today the BBC have announced that they're going to look at the sound levels for the next episodes. Personally speaking, I had absolutely no problem with it at all. I didn't have to turn on the subtitles. I think there's an interesting issue around. Mark Lawson wrote about it in The Guardian today, but there is an issue about people's concentration and expectations of sound level, and back against background noise. And you hear about people who, you're in the theatre or the cinema, and people are treating it like they're at home watching television, having a chat with the person next to them, and whatever. So the way. There may be some of those things in play as well. But that's a technical issue.
Pay attention. Pay attention,
Yeah.
people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're gonna bother to sit down and watch something, then actually do the actors and the director and so on the credit that they said stuff that was worth listening to.
Yeah.
So just sit there and listen to it, and don't tweet at the same time. It's just good manners.
Yeah. Don't eat noisy crisps.
But no, the other thing, you were talking about Chris's comment about the Spitfire. It has been criticised by various people of a historical bent for certain alleged historical inaccuracies. Now, personally speaking, it's a counterfactual, so therefore you can't complain about inaccuracies in a counterfactual because you don't know what would have happened if the counterfactual had actually happened. But by the by, the Spitfire happened in the opening sequence where you had this wonderful, the classic Battle of Britain shot of the Spitfire rolling through the sky, and then it does a low pass and lands on the Mall, and it's out gets a Luftwaffe pilot because it's being presented. One of the last surviving Spitfires is being presented by the Russians as part of Russian-German Friendship Week, and there's a wonderful a CGI shot later as a truck drives down the Mall and pans up, and you see a bomb-damaged Buckingham Palace with huge Nazi banners outside, hanging down the outside of it. It's a very striking image. It was in there it was there to undercut the expectation of what you normally get when you see a Spitfire. And I should know about the expectations when people talk about seeing Spitfires. But
sorry, yes, sorry, yes.
But no, I mean, the fact that it was the wrong type of Spitfire for 1940, and it was a great image. It's storytelling, folks. It's the map might have had Ministry of Defence symbols that didn't come in until after the wars. I mean, it really doesn't matter. What matters are things like the image of a box in a British police station of a box of yellow Stars of David that are about to be issued to Jewish people by British policemen. That was part of the atmospherics of the piece. It was a very brief throwaway moment in the thing, but one of the most powerful moments in the whole thing. It's been very well, personally speaking, I think it's been very well put together on a. It shows a certain put it this way, it's a BBC budget, not an Amazon budget, let alone a Hollywood budget.
No.
So it's not as expansive as something like Man in the High Castle people might have seen on Amazon Prime. But and very good that is too, as a counterfactual. But no, I wish in these cases people would just lighten up a little bit and just take it as what it is, and actually as maybe as a gateway to people looking at the history, and rather than say immediately say, "Oh God, that's wrong." It's a story. It might be wrong in pure historical terms, but it may well be right in design and storytelling terms. And in a piece of fiction, that's what matters most.
Yeah, but actually, it makes me think of something which is very interesting, and that is, frankly, it's a very good opportunity to discuss the uncomfortable truth that in Britain there was a strong amount of, a strong element that wouldn't have minded if Germany had invaded. And frankly, actually, if it wasn't Germany doing what they did, it could have been elements in Britain. We had the black shirts, we had all sorts of problems here, in terms of.
It's interesting. I mean, in the original Len Date book, it's not been covered so far in the TV version, but in the original Len Date book, Britain is ruled by Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson, who've been reinstated by Hitler as a puppet monarchy. And we know that was one of the possibilities that was being looked at by the German Foreign Office and senior echelons of the Nazi regime.
Also, fun fact: Hitler wanted to preserve Oxford as a potential new capital of England.
There's also a vicious rumor that the building, the main building at the University College London, University of London, the library building, was going to be turned into the Gestapo headquarters. But that's a vicious rumor. It was actually used in one of the Batman movies as part of Gotham City.
Oh, okay, that's quite cool. That's quite cool. There you go.
If anyone knows, it's that wonderful big brutalist building out the back of the British Museum. On Bloomsbury Square.
You see, that's why it works for Gotham City. Gotham is a horrible place to live, Andy. You can go outside and get kidnapped by the Joker. Anyway, okay, well that's good. So you would recommend that people give it a go and have an open mind and just try to.
And actually read the book. If you like thrillers, read the book as well, because the book's really good.
Okay. Well, I over the weekend I actually watched a film, and this film was called Timeline from 2003, and I had sort of forgotten how magnificently bad this was. It's actually from Richard Donner, the director of Lethal Weapon, and it stars
great action director.
Sorry.
Really good action director.
Yeah. Although you wouldn't know from Timeline.
Didn't he do one of the Superman films as well?
He did. Yep. He did. Yep. Stars as the main protagonist, Paul Walker. You've got Billy Connolly turns up. You've got a couple of people who were fresh, I think, from The Matrix. The Merovingian.
Is Billy Connolly a professor of archaeology in this?
He is. Billy Connolly is he's Paul Walker's dad, and he's professor of archaeology. And it's fantastic. They're digging in a site in France. There's all sorts of things that you can have fun with in terms of spotting the good and the bad in terms of the archaeological practice. But then they sort of go back in time using little sort of pendants and a machine, and it's fantastic. There is though a few things which I'd like to know more about. This is acted as a gateway. In terms of medieval warfare, and one of them is, would you light your arrows in night combat? The point was you light some arrows and you don't light others, and so people are avoiding the lit ones. Or more to the point, maybe you have a wave of lit and then a wave of unlit that they're not expecting.
Do you know why you do that in a movie?
Because the camera can see them.
Exactly. It makes it more visually interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is.
Although to be fair, actually, a modern machine gun has traceable lit, so that you can see the direction the thing's pointing.
Yeah, what's the ratio on that? I've always wondered what's the ratio of traces to bullets, and on like a like a blitz run or something? What?
It varied from place to place and time to time. If you were I think I'm right in saying if you were a sort of senior pilot during the Battle of Britain,
Mhm.
you could actually specify to your armourers the loadout that you wanted your weapons to have. So you could have one, if you wanted, you could have one, one machine gun that was firing, one tracer every 5 rounds or every 10 rounds, whatever, and other guns loaded differently. It was down to what a particular pilot
Right.
wanted. So it would vary.
And speaking of which, is a tracer actually effective as a projectile, or is it in so much as is it a bullet just with phosphorus on the back, or is it actually?
It's usually a bullet that contains phosphorus, so it glows,
Right.
burns and glows. And in fact, they were developed in the modern form in World War One to bring down Zeppelins. Mr. Brock,
Okay. Yeah.
of firework fame, designed a one, and Mr. Pomeroy designed was involved as well. But tracer ammunition because it burned, it would set fire to the hydrogen gas cells in Zeppelins.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Whereas an ordinary jacketed bullet would just go straight through and just make a little hole, I guess. You seep out slowly.
Oh yeah. Whereas you wanted the Okay. Anyway, just back to the. Thank you, by the way. But yes, So you have the nighttime shooting of arrows. Yeah. You see, you got to bring people. This is all the way back to the beginning of this podcast. You got to bring people with you into your specialism. But also, for example, Michael Sheen makes an appearance. I think he plays essentially he's a noble. He's a nasty man. But what's great about him is that he's a Welshman, I think, playing an Englishman who is beating up a Frenchman or a Scotsman for it's the levels of just irony and it's almost as good as in Highlander when you have Christopher Lambert telling Sean Connery what a haggis is. It's that kind of level of brilliance. So it's not the best film in the world. I think on IMDb it's got a score of 5.6 out of 10, but that's not the point. It's fun, and Gerard Butler turns up, and it's all good.
Gerard Butler.
Exactly. Yes. Tonight we dine in Hades, Gerard, not hell. In Hades.
You're nitpicking again. It's a great piece of dialogue.
It is very good. It is very good. But hell is a qualitative element, whereas Hades actually had a much more passive destination. Hades was understood as a.
Can I get back to Thailand for a second? I have a vague recollection. First of all, that it's by Michael Crichton, who also wrote Jurassic Park, which we touched on earlier, the novel. But am I right in thinking? I have a vague recollection. Do they not use that as a location? Or put it this way: every medieval movie, from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves to whatever, every medieval town looked like Carcassonne. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great, and all the how so you can tell who's poor because they're covered in poo, and it's fantastic. It's great. So I would strongly recommend that you watch it. You at home, give this a go, and just enjoy it for what it is. And I get a little bit like SSGB. It's not going to change your life, but it's fun.
Well, and if you want a really realistic view of medieval or medieval Britain, I think we should give a nod to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, because I think that's one of the iconic depictions of the historical reality of the Middle Ages.
Yeah, exactly. The oppression of the people under authoritarian rule, and of course hand grenades as well. Okay, well that's our TV for the month. I guess that's it, really. Thank you so much to everyone for sticking with us this month. As ever, we are always looking for contributions. So if you want to comment, if you want to get involved in the conversation, please do below. We do and will read your comments. We will respond where appropriate. But also as well, if you have any ideas, if you have a news story that you wanted to talk about, throw it our way. We can't guarantee that we'll talk about them, but if we're interested, we will take a look. Anyway, guys, as I say, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Andy for his time. Thank you. And I've got a dog to walk and a wife to pick up from work. So on that note, I'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.